Americans right now. Neither one of these shows graphic violence. We could easily find tape that does show it. There's an awful lot of it out there. But what we're going to play instead for you is, in some ways, maybe more insidious than assault. What you'll hear is neglect, and neglect is itself a form of violence. The first tape is from a small town, Fredericksburg, Virginia. It's a 911 call recorded earlier this month. A woman called Tara Durant took her young daughter on errands downtown. As the two tried to drive home, a mob surrounded their vehicle and blocked it from moving. Several people jumped on Durant's car and screamed obscenities at her child. Terrified, Tara Durant called 911. And here's the response she got.
They're on my car, all right? They're on my car right now.
But we would suggest you slowly drive through the area. Don't hit anyone with your vehicle.
I cannot get out of here, okay?
You have to be patient, but I'll let the officers know, okay?
Are you serious?
The city told us that we can't do anything, ma'am. The city told us that this is a sanctioned event.
Get out of my car. You know, this is going to get dangerous. I got a kid here.
Yes, ma'am. We would suggest that you call up City Hall to let them know about your frustrations, because we're all very frustrated.
This is getting scary. Oh, they're on my car. They're on my car. And I got a little girl in the car crying. Are you kidding me?
They're on my car. They're on my car. Ma'am, comes the reply. We would suggest you call up City Hall to let them know about your frustrations. Those are verbatim quotes. It's hard to listen to that tape without feeling emotional. A woman and her child were terrorized by a violent mob, and then they were intentionally abandoned by the state that has promised to protect them. It was the ultimate betrayal of citizenship. You should know that the mayor of Fredericksburg, Virginia, a woman called Mary Catherine Greenlaw, later apologized. But Greenlaw did not apologize to Tara Durant or her young daughter. The mayor apologized to the mob. Police had tried to disperse them while they were rioting. Quote, "I am personally sorry," Mayor Greenlaw slobbered. "I want to apologize to those who went through this fearful experience." Again, to be crystal clear, Mayor Greenlaw said that to the rioters, not to the citizens she had cruelly abandoned. All of that happened in a little town of 25,000 people. It's happening in so many American towns right now. Here's what's happening in our cities. This is recent video from New York. You'll be forgiven if you don't recognize it. It looks like a foreign country. As you watch, notice how the police respond. The squad car just rolls on through. The cops don't even slow down. They've been told not to. They don't try to enforce the law. They can't enforce the law. Keep in mind, decent people live in that neighborhood. Decent people live in every American neighborhood. How would you feel if you lived there? You'd be very afraid. You'd feel like things were falling apart. More than anything else, you would want someone to restore order. You'd want a leader to take back your neighborhood from armed children, because armed children are far more threatening than even the worst rogue cop, always. But local leaders are not doing that. They are not restoring order. They're ignoring the suffering of their people. So what is the White House doing about this? Well, the president announced 2 days ago that anyone who topples a statue on federal property will face 10 years in prison. That is a welcome start. What we're living through right now, despite what people have told you, is not a local problem. This is a national crisis. The riots are designed to produce a national result: the destruction of our system of government and the removal of Donald Trump. People expect a president to respond to a moment like this, to fix it, and they have a right to expect that. The president runs the country. If the rioters were Saudi nationals, it would be very clear that there is nothing local about what we're watching. We would understand immediately that it's terrorism. The president would give a primetime address. Within hours, the feds would be hunting these people down and arresting them. If the rioters were white supremacists, they'd already be in prison facing life. So the question is, why isn't the Justice Department responding like this? That's not clear. Some blame the White House counsel's office. They say it's dominated by Bush partisans who were hostile to Trump. We don't know if that's true. If it is true, there's an easy solution to it. Just ignore their counsel. Send the lawyers to the basement till November and have them reorganize the card catalog or read Reader's Digest from the 70s. Only a fool lets lawyers make critical decisions anyway. They're not wise. If they were, they probably wouldn't be lawyers. Others say career bureaucrats at DOJ or federal prosecutors in the states are dragging their feet. The Attorney General, Bill Barr, says he is overseeing 500 separate investigations into rioters. Good for him. Presumably one of them is into the destruction of the Albert Pike statue in Washington. It took place last Friday. It was on live television. So far, no one has been arrested for it. It would change the course of this country's future if the Justice Department rounded up the leaders of Antifa tomorrow, along with every single person caught on camera torching a building, destroying a monument, defacing a church, and put them all in shackles, and then frog marched them in front of cameras like MS-13 and called them what they actually are: domestic terrorists. Not protesters, not civil rights activists, not CNN contributors, but domestic terrorists. That would be their new government-approved title. Once they're charged, it's official, in fact. They are literally, as a factual matter, accused terrorists. And that would change minds right away. The people destroying this country are criminals. Few are brave enough to call them that, so naturally their popularity grows. Everyone supports protesters. This is America. We believe in protest. But watch what happens when you start calling them what they really are. Most people don't like terrorists. Terrorists will never be popular, even among Democratic voters. So charge them for the crimes they've committed and call them what they are. Right now, the opposite is happening. The terrorists are more popular than the President of the United States. And not just more popular than Donald Trump personally, but more popular than the system he represents and administers. And it's obvious why. Our system is weak. It refuses to defend itself. Mayors let new countries sprout in the middle of their cities. Our leaders act like laws are irrelevant. Everyone watches this happen. It's a potentially fatal problem. Weak institutions die. Citizens develop contempt for them, and then they get overthrown. The same is true, by the way, for heads of state. When you refuse to fight for the system you run, you're done. Spend an hour on Google and see if you can find a single leader in the history of the world who stayed in power after failing to quell a rebellion. You can't. The saddest part of all of this is that our system is very much worth saving. It administers justice more fairly than any system in the world. If we want to keep that system, we have to use that system. And that means enforcing America's laws with certainty, enforcing them right now at the moment of greatest peril. If we don't do it now, we never will do it. Ignore a law long enough and it becomes unenforceable. You'd be shocked if you got pulled over for doing 58 in a 55